Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Grizzly Bear Google Hangout at the Central Park Zoo. We are live in front of the Grizzly Bear exhibit in East Shell Beach, and the Central Park Zoo is part of the Wildlife Conservation Society, which is one of 5 parks run by the Wildlife Conservation Society, in addition to the Bronx Zoo, Prospect Park Zoo, Queens Zoo, and the New York Aquarium. The Wildlife Conservation Society also runs over 500 projects around the globe focused on conservation in over 60 countries. Today we're going to be looking at our grizzly bears, Betty and Veronica. Oh, but I wanted to actually also introduce our schools before we move on. Welcome to our schools. Today we have Miss Rosero's kindergarten students from Dana Elementary School in Hendersonville, North Carolina. We also have Miss Lester's 1st and 4th graders at Meadow Glen Elementary School in Lexington, South Carolina. Miss Nixon's 2nd graders at a school in Frisco, Texas. And Miss French's 3rd graders at Camelot Elementary School in San Antonio, Texas. And a school that's with us all the way from Germany, Mr. Flores' 4th graders from Vogelway Elementary School, part of the United States military community in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Welcome, everyone. Today we're speaking with our senior keeper, Kelly Boghossian, who is in charge of our polar zone here at the Central Park Zoo. She oversees our special exhibits such as our grizzly bears, our seals, our sea lions, our penguins, and puffins. If anyone has any questions during this Google Hangout, please post your questions to our Q&A app, or you can tweet your questions to hashtag WCSGrizzlyBearsHOA. So before we get started, we're going to play a little game with everyone. It's called Truth or Bear, but it's really true or false. So we're going to ask you a couple of questions. We want all of our viewers to scream out your answers, and then Kelly's going to give us her professional answer. So the first question, are bears carnivores? Okay, Kelly, your answer.
Okay, so you guys are correct. That answer actually is false. Bears are not carnivores. They are what are called omnivores. That means they eat both animal proteins and plant matter.
All right, so for all of you viewers that said no, good job. Second truth or bear. Can bears run downhill? Can they run downhill?
Okay, for those of you that answered that was also that was true. That is true. Bears can run downhill. They can run downhill, uphill, any direction. Bears can actually run at speeds at up to 35 miles an hour, actually.
Okay, so now we're going to turn to some questions from our school groups that are watching. Our first question comes from Miss French's 3rd grade class at Camelot Elementary.
Are they named by their features or what they do to survive in the wild?
The question is, are they named by their features or what they do to survive in the wild? Where did the name Grizzly come from?
Okay, the name Grizzly comes from the actual color of the bear. So grizzly bears have a very specific coat color. If you can look at Betty right here in the front, their coat changes from a dark brown to a very light brown, almost white at the tips, or a grizzled appearance.
Okay, next question from Miss French's class.
It's just right here.
So we're looking for the second question from Miss French's class. Okay, we're having a little trouble here, so I think the question might be.
You're gonna have to step forward. When you
Kelly,
do it, louder.
Okay, our bears here eat a variety of foods. They eat chicken, fish, eat root vegetables such as yams or carrots or sweet potatoes or beets. They also eat a variety of fruits. Depending on the day, they will eat apples, pears, grapes, and as well as a variety of other enrichment items like peanuts or honey. And per day, each bear can eat several pounds of food.
Antonio, go ahead to the second one.
Okay, I think we should have another question from Miss French's class.
What do they mostly eat? Oh, they answered that one. Okay, so I need
You should go sit down.
Curtis, go. You two go sit down.
Go sit down, thank you. Okay, you move
Go ahead, Curtis.
Stand out there, that's good.
Are bears good swimmers?
Say it really loud.
Are bears good swimmers?
Okay, so I think this question might be, are the bears good swimmers?
Yes.
So our bears here are very good swimmers. They enjoy their pool every day. They will go in first thing in the morning and swim from one side of the exhibit to another. They will also both play in their shallow pool together. So they very much enjoy water and swimming.
Great. Okay, I think we have a couple more questions from Miss French's class.
Do the bears use
And if you can speak up into the microphone, that would be helpful so we can hear you.
Now loud.
Do the bears use their body parts to communicate?
Kelly, do the bears use their body parts to communicate?
So the bears will use their body to communicate in a number of ways. Grizzly bears will use, when they meet another grizzly bear, will stand up to communicate that they're in their territory. They will make themselves look big. They will use a variety of also vocalizations to communicate with other bears. And also when they are looking for something territorially, they will walk around and display to other bears.
Okay, Michelle.
Okay, next.
Great. Okay, and last question from Miss French's class. And remember to speak into the microphone loudly.
Great job, here.
How tall can they grow?
How tall can they grow? And how long do their nails grow?
That's good.
So grizzly bears, when they are standing on all 4 feet, are between 3 and 4 feet tall at the shoulder. However, when they stand on their back feet, they are between 6 and 7 feet tall. And that's generally how big a grizzly is. Also, if you want to talk about their nails, I have here for you guys a grizzly bear nail. They're usually between 2 and 4 inches long, and this is something that they use to dig up grubs or other root vegetables. And if you guys wanted for size reference, I have a grizzly bear paw print. Now this is actually from an adult male grizzly bear, so they're much larger than our female grizzly bears here, but just so you can get some size perspective as how big their feet are.
Yeah. Wow. It's almost as big as her head.
All right, fantastic. Great questions, everyone. So these next questions are coming from Miss Rosero's kindergartners at Dana Elementary.
How many types of grizzly bears are there?
Can you say the question a little bit louder?
How many types of grizzly bears are there?
So this is a question that a lot of people will ask. Grizzly bears are a type of brown bear, and because science is changing all the time, there are different subgroups of other bears. So we have here female grizzly bears, but you also have some Alaskan grizzlies and some grizzlies in Canada as well.
Great. Okay, next question from Miss Rosero's kindergarten class.
Oh, look at the bear.
Can they see at night?
Can the bears see at night? Yes, just like you or I could see at night, the bears also can see at night. Unlike a cat, they don't have night vision so much as other animals would be. So grizzly bears actually rely on their sense of smell more than their sense of sight.
Okay, we have another question from this class.
Why do they stand on their back legs?
So grizzly bears can stand on their back legs when they're trying to smell something further off than where they are. So it's not necessarily a threatening position. It's the bear just trying to get a better view or better smell of what they're investigating. If they meet another grizzly bear, they may stand up if they feel threatened, but normally if you see a grizzly bear standing, it's just that they're looking for a better scent or better view.
Okay, I think we have two more from Miss Rosero's class.
When do they start hibernating?
Okay, so our bears here at Central Park actually don't go into a true hibernation. They, because they have adequate shelter and warmth and food, and they have a ready food supply, their bodies actually don't go into a hibernation mode like they would in the wild. So you will see our girls eating maybe a little less in the wintertime when other bears would be hibernating. But, normally we would not be hibernating here.
Okay, and one more question from Miss Rosero's class.
What do you do when the bears get sick?
That's a good question.
Well, that's actually a great question because just like if you had a dog or cat at home, that
Just take pictures of it.
Doc specializes in veterinary medicine. We have zoo vets here that specify in wildlife medication. So what we would do if one of our bears was not feeling well is we would notify our veterinarian and they would come down and we would do an exam on our bears, and then if they were really not feeling well, we could even go as far as to giving them medication just like you would take if you got a cold.
Great questions, everyone. Okay, we have some more questions. Now we're going to move over to Miss Lester's 1st and 4th grade classes from Meadow Glen Elementary School in Lexington, South Carolina. You have your questions ready?
Yes, ma'am. It keeps muting our microphone, so hopefully you'll be able to hear us.
I'll let you know if we can.
All right.
What kind of foods do grizzly bears eat?
Can you say your question a little bit louder?
What kind of foods do grizzly bears eat?
What kind of foods do grizzly bears eat?
So grizzly bears, because they are an omnivore, eat a variety of foods. Our bears here eat chicken and herring. We also will offer them other foods like fruits and vegetables. They will eat yams or carrots or beets, apples, oranges, grapes, a variety. And sometimes we'll also give them, like you guys would have a treat after school, we would give them a treat like giving them some peanuts or some honey.
Okay, next question. Nice and loud.
What do grizzly bears do?
Kelly, what do grizzly bears do?
So the grizzly bears, when we have them go out on their exhibit, they will do a variety of things. They get what is called enrichment, or it's something we do to stimulate the bear's interest or their senses. As you see here, we are taking a nap in our dig pit. So they will dig in the sand. They will go in their pool. Betty in particular will go swimming. They like to lay out in the sun and take a nap. Those are all some of the activities that our bears do here.
Okay, fantastic. Now I think we're moving on to Mr. Flores' fourth graders from Vogelway Elementary School in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Make sure to ask your questions nice and loud.
We recently learned that bats use their senses to survive, to find food, pups, and parents. How do bears use their senses to survive?
So I'll repeat that just in case Kelly couldn't hear. We recently learned that bats use all their senses to survive, to find food, pups, and parents. How do bears use their senses to survive?
Right, that's a really great question. So how our bears will use their senses to survive is they will rely mostly on their sense of smell. That is the most dominant sense that they rely on. They will use their sense of sight if they had, some kind of danger element in that way, but they will use their senses in terms of they will use their nose to smell out grubs or root vegetables or any other kind of food that they'd be looking for. It's also they will use, if you ever see a bear kind of scratching their back on a tree or on a rock, that's a way that they actually will leave their scent for another bear, so they will establish their territory and let the other bears know where everybody else is. It's kind of like bear Facebook.
Can't get this to work. You have to type in here.
Fantastic. Okay, one more question from Mr. Flores' class in Germany.
We also learned that bats help humans by pollination, guano for fertilizer, and eating insects. Are there ways that bears help humans?
Okay, I'm going to repeat that because it was a little hard to hear. We learned that bats help humans by pollination, guano for fertilizer, and eating insects. Are there ways that bears help humans?
Okay, so just like how bats would transmit seeds for seed dispersal, bears will do the exact same thing. One of their favorite food items would be to find berries in nature, or a blackberry bush is one of their favorite things to eat, so they will pass the seeds and they will disperse the seeds just like a bat does. They also, because they eat a lot of very protein-rich foods like fish or different kinds of salmon, they will leave those, the remains of those in the soil, and it actually helps enrich the soil and the plant life because they're kind of using the fish as fertilizer.
Great. Okay. So I think we got a question from the audience too. Kelly, how did you become a bear keeper?
I, as a child, was always very interested in animals. I would always, when I had any spare time, would go off hiking in the woods and exploring, and I was always just really interested in nature. So I went to college and I studied animal behavior, and then when I was done, I got an internship at a zoo, and fast forward a few years, and now I am one of the bear keepers at Central Park.
Excellent. Okay, another one that we got in, are grizzly bears aggressive, and are you ever nervous to work with them?
So a lot of people are very curious because grizzly bears are, an apex animal, and some, view them as a predator. However, most grizzly bears just want to be left alone. So most grizzly bears are not aggressive. Again, as I said before, when they stand up, they're not trying to be dominant. They're just curious and looking around. Here at Central Park, obviously we work very close with the bears, and we take very, very serious precautions when we are working with them. We are very safe, and you always are just very aware when you're working with the bears, so never nervous.
Great. Okay, and remember, if anyone else has any questions, you can post your questions to our Q&A app, or you can tweet them to #WCS Grizzly Bears HOA. So we're almost finished with our hangout, but we do have one more truth or bear question we're going to throw out to everybody. So remember, this is truth or bear, but really it's truth or false. Do bears have poor eyesight? Audience, scream out your answer.
This is a question in that the bear's eyesight is actually kind of like our eyesight, but they do have an incredible sense of smell. So their sense of smell is so good that they actually don't rely on their eyesight as heavily as you or I do.
Excellent. Okay, I think we have a couple more questions coming in.
Guys, wave.
My head's famous again.
We lost that picture.
Okay, this question is from Mrs. French's class. So how long do the grizzly bears live?
So in the wild can live in their 20s. In zoos, because we do have that extended veterinary care that I mentioned before, can live into their 30s, and the oldest recorded grizzly bear in captivity was 44 years old.
Wow.
All right, fantastic. More questions from our audience.
Any other questions?
Phillips Elementary, are there any questions from your class?
How old were they when they got out in the zoo?
So the question is, how old were the grizzlies when they came to the zoo?
Here's a good one.
Okay, so our grizzly bears are approximately 22 years old. They were rescued from the wild when they were very, very young, so we had to approximate how old they were. They came to the Bronx Zoo in 1995 and moved to Central Park in November of last year.
Excellent. Okay, so from Miss Lester's class, they want to know how many different kinds of bears are there?
It's up to debate how many different kinds of bears there are. With grizzly bears, just grizzly bears, there are a number of different subspecies, and then you have everything from polar bears to black bears to giant pandas. So there's a variety, and very much depending on what continent too. There are a number of bears depending on the science.
Excellent. Okay, I believe we have one more question from Miss French's class.
You want to say it? Come on, Fitz, here, real quick.
Remember to speak loudly into the microphone.
Yeah, just yell loud.
Are grizzly bears endangered?
Ooh, are grizzly bears endangered?
So grizzly bears are actually not currently endangered. In 2007, they were actually removed from the endangered species list. They were in the 1970s. They were an at-risk species, but we have done a number of things in terms of conservation plans throughout the country to bring those numbers back up. And they were brought back up to about 1,800 bears in the United States as of 2007, and current data also corresponds to that.
Okay, we're just about done, but we got one more question for Phil Elementary. So go ahead with your question. Make sure to speak loudly into the microphone.
How old are Betty and Veronica, and how long will they live?
So Betty and Veronica are about 22 years old, and in captivity they can live into their 30s.
Excellent. Okay, so I think we are pretty much out of time for today's Google Hangout. I want to throw a big thank you out to Kelly Boghossian, who answered some really great questions from our viewers.
Oops. I'll put a thank you in here.